Chapter 10. The Argo and her opponent are at a standoff. Side by side, but neither firing, they drift alongside one another as their crews stand at the ready. The tension is palpable, both sides waiting for the cue, for the first shot to be fired. Technoblade waits on bated breath, his heart pounding wildly in his ears, cold dread creeping into his veins like ice. He knows this is not a fight they can win. The Argo is dwarfed by her opponent, both in sheer size and in numbers. If they fight, if this ends in bloodshed, there's no telling how many they could lose in the battle, or if any would survive at all. Beside him, Phil is rigid. He's just as nervous. His years of experience out on the seas more than enough to tell him the challenge they face. He casts a sideways glance at Technoblade, and when their eyes meet, the captain sees just the faintest flicker of fear in his first mate's eyes. Not for himself, no, but for the crew under their command. Technoblade's heart sinks for Tommy and Tubbo and Ronbu, and all of the others under his command who will have to face this threat, underprepared and overwhelmed. There's just one alternative. Parley. Technoblade murmurs. Techno. Phil's voice is soft, questioning. We have to negotiate somehow. Techno. Phil's face is shadowed, his gaze distant. They don't negotiate with pirates. Trust me. We have to try, Phil. We can't win this. I know. And that's how they ended up like this. Half of the enemy ship's crew gathered on the deck of the Argo alongside Technoblade's own men. Technoblade and their captain, standing face to face, a foot away, weapons drawn but not pointed, merely eyeing one another up. And Technoblade blinks. Dream? Commodore Dream, actually. His friend, George, if Technoblade's memory serves correct, says lowly from Dream's left. He thumbs the pistol at his belt, making no attempt to disguise the threat. No, wait. George, hang on. Dream protests, a note of disbelief in his voice as he steps up to scrutinize Technoblade. His lips twitch in the barest hint of a smile, though his sword remains drawn and ready. Technoblade? Techno, is that you? Captain Technoblade? Phil's voice, however hushed, is just as sharp, more of a hiss than anything. Captain? Techno, you're the captain? Dream huffs out a laugh, and his demeanor suddenly drops into something far less threatening. He runs a hand through his hair with a grin, shaking his head. You've got to be kidding me. Technoblade a pirate? Technoblade manages a weak grin amidst the complete and utter shock. His whole body is still on edge, his muscles tense, his brain firing 1,000,000 miles a minute. Though there are no words to describe how relieved he is to see a familiar face, they're still on opposite sides of this war now, and Dream has never been anything less than ruthless. He's a threat at best, and the Argo's doom at his worst. He can never be too careful around his former comrade. Surprise, he says dryly, laughing along with Dream, though he can't find any humor in the situation. He's just been caught red-handed aboard the crew of a pirate ship, blatantly betraying his former ideals yet again. He doesn't think his punishment will be just a hand this time, somehow. I'm not gonna lie, when I heard pirates wanted to negotiate, well, I was a little confused, but this changes things, Dream says, lowering his weapon to clap Technoblade on the shoulder. Technoblade grits his teeth and suppresses the urge to tug his arm away. It does? Dream grins. I mean, it's pretty obvious you've gotten a little desperate here, Techno. I mean, piracy? I know things have been hard, and when you lost your ship you decided to throw a little pity party, but hey, this is your chance, your big shot. It is? Imagine it. Captain Blade, returning triumphantly back to his duties with a whole pirate crew in chains? They'd welcome you back with open arms. You want me to? Oh, come on, Techno. We both know this isn't what you want. The Navy was your dream. You've fallen low. I get it, man. You were desperate. But I can turn a blind eye just this once. He winks. Our superiors won't know anything you don't want them to. Technoblade recoils. He can feel the eyes of his whole crew on him. Can feel their shock, the hair on the back of his neck rising along with the tension. Dream, just let us go. He reasons, refusing to answer his offer. Just this once. Do it for an old ally, if nothing else. There are kids on my crew, a civilian too. They don't need to get caught up in this. Dream's expression hardens. They got caught up in this the moment they chose piracy, Techno. You know the punishment as well as I do. The gallows will be full this week. Tommy makes a quiet, panicked noise somewhere behind him, and Technoblade bares his teeth, white-hot anger flaring in his gut. Yeah, that's not happening, Dream. Dream has the audacity to look surprised. What happened to you, Techno? He questions, and there's a note of genuine concern in his voice. The Techno I knew wouldn't do this, wouldn't stand with criminals. Guess I had too much taken from me. He answers, the fear in his heart crumbling beneath the weight of his anger. Can't find it in myself to believe everything I hear anymore. He can see Dream's gaze drifting to his prosthetic. The expression he boasts is one of pity, and it makes Technoblade's stomach turn, his rage only growing. I'm sorry to hear that, Technoblade. Dream says, and it sounds genuine. But I can't just let you leave either. Which leaves us with just one other option. Technoblade nods solemnly and raises his sword. Typical pirates! Never know a losing battle when they see one. A young man Technoblade doesn't recognize suddenly proclaims. He's at Dream's right hand, his expression dark and similarly poised to fight. Dark, messy hair spilling out over a white bandana that's certainly not to Navy code. Wait a second, Phil says from his left. His lips are downturned in a frown, his brows furrowed, his shoulders tense, his gaze searching. I know you. You're Captain Bad's boy, aren't you? Sapnap? The hell is a pirate's kid doing in the Navy? Shut up! The boy snaps immediately, and in an instant his sword is angled toward Phil, his teeth bared and ready to fight. This one's mine, he declares with a boastful smile that Phil is quick to match with a cocky grin of his own, branding his cutlass. Technoblade growls, raising his own weapon to defend his friend, but he's cut off by Dream's blade against his, a loud ring echoing across the water as they clash. I don't want to fight, Techno, Dream says, and he looks genuinely sorrowful. But you're picking the wrong side, and I can't let you go any further. Fuck off, Phil spits as he strains against Sapnap's strength, the two of them locked in a standstill. You don't know shit. You think the Navy's any better? Dream laughs. It's better than being a criminal, Angel. And then they fight. It's messy and brutal, and he can hear cries and shouts and the sounds of metal clashing, accompanied by the awful noise of fabric and skin alike ripping beneath the blows. Technoblade faces Dream. Captain versus captain, as it should be. He won't allow anyone else to face such a dangerous foe. He's reluctant to trade blows with someone he once considered an ally, a partner even. But the adrenaline of the consequences should he not fuel his every movement, keeping him on his toes and preventing his blows from losing their force. He has to win. Dream, on the other hand, is decidedly holding back. I can pull rank. I can vouch for you, Techno. You don't have to do this. You don't have to stoop to piracy. He spits the last word as if it's a curse, his nose wrinkling in distaste, though his eyes remain wide and pleading, one hand outstretched. I can get you back in the Navy. I can get you your rank, a ship, a crew. Whatever you want, Techno. And for a minute, it's tempting. He imagines returning to the Navy with honors, having not only captured the Angel of Death, but also his ship and his crew. He imagines the praise and prestige and a shining new ship, and the proud gazes of the superiors that once scorned him. He imagines Phil in chains again. The foolhardy hope in his chest dies. We can be partners again. And there it is. It's the most tempting offer out of all of them, more so than any success he might gain from his betrayal. He and Dream, a team again. Though he's never quite considered them friends, per se. Not like Dream has, at least. Their partnership when they'd crewed the same ship had been legendary. There's no denying that they work well together, and unlike others, Dream never saw him as just a tool. Just a weapon to be commanded, just another soldier. They weren't friends, no, but they were equals. And that was more than Technoblade had been able to say for a long time before meeting him. They worked well together. They got the job done. And Technoblade never had to be anything more or less than what he wanted to be. It'd be easy to fit back into it. Like slipping on an old glove. That comfortable detachment he'd grown used to feeling back as a naval captain. The assurance that just as nobody needed to care for him more than was necessary, so too did he not have to care for them in turn. Except he'd never been good at that, had he? His passion, his care for his crew, never fully reciprocated. His heart for those around him, thrown back at him with strict orders and punishment and constraining rules that promoted indifference and callousness in leadership, rather than compassion. He'd felt so much when he'd lost his crew. He still thinks of them, still regrets, with every inch of him, with every fiber of his being. The Navy had seen it as a waste of resources, a loss of mere numbers, a betrayal of their ideals. He'd been punished for the latter, rather than the deaths of a few dozen men whose families would never see them again. And maybe that's what makes his hand still ache with phantom pain. Maybe that's what makes the memories taste so bitter on his tongue. He hadn't even been punished for the right thing. But he has a chance to go back. Right here. Right now. This moment will be his only shot. Dream the only person with the confidence and capability to return his merit to him. He could have it all back. Go back to the way things used to be, like nothing ever happened. Except he'd never forget. He'd have the weight of his crew's deaths on his shoulders. Not just the former, but his current. Tommy and Tubbo and Ronbu and Eret and Nikki and Jack and Phil. Out of the corner of his eye, he catches the look on Phil's face, and something else in him shatters as well. Some part of him must have betrayed his brief moment of hesitation, because Phil is looking at him with something akin to a mix of hurt and shock and sorrow, his movements stilling, as if he's simply too surprised to even move. It twists into something ugly, something dangerous and furious, and so raw that Technoblade flinches away from the intensity of his glare. He wants to assure him, to immediately spit his rejection of the offer out for all to hear, but Sapnap lunges forward, scoring a shallow slash along Phil's shoulder, and their fight begins anew, leaving no time for reconciliation, though his first mate keeps shooting him rapid, desperate glances as though he can't quite believe what he just saw. And Dream's moving too, as if sensing Technoblade's change of heart, quickly taking up the offensive and pushing their blades together until they're nearly nose to nose. Are you sure you want to do this, Techno? And oh, there's a note of hurt in Dream's voice amidst the cold anger. a desperation in his blows that hadn't been there before. You're really gonna give it all up? For what? A bunch of criminals? They're my friends. Technoblade hisses back, and Dream laughs at that. It sounds wrong, twisted somehow, laced with a bitterness that speaks volumes of how the man might have viewed him had they stuck together. It makes Technoblade's heart pinch, but there's no time to dwell on it, because Dream's blows just keep on coming, stronger and faster, and each one more and more dangerous than the last. They're pirates, Technoblade. They take, and they steal, and they kill, and you think they're your friends? Dream's eyes glitter with something unrecognizable. You might be their captain now, but one wrong move and they'll toss you aside, leave you behind. Technoblade opens his mouth to respond, to retaliate, but something stops him. The image of Phil, in chains, left behind by not only his crew but his own son. Do all pirates really think so little of relationships? Is there some unspoken code, an understanding that no attachment is permanent? Could it happen to him too? The thoughts die almost instantly, banished to the back of his mind because all he can think of is Phil's shock, his utter devastation when he'd been betrayed. No, he hisses through gritted teeth and shoves back, sending Dream stumbling. They wouldn't. What makes you so sure? Dream demands. He sounds like a cornered animal, almost desperate, and it's unlike anything he's heard from him before. How do you know they won't turn on you? I trust them. It's short, simple, and painfully honest. Dream gets a glint in his eyes then. But do they trust you? What? Do they know, Techno? Because I do. I know exactly who you captured that day. Just who you were ordered to escort. Do they? Oh, gods. Technoblade knows exactly what his plan is. To force him into an alley with no way out. To leave him with no other option but to run to the Navy with his tail between his legs. To run back to Dream. The Commodore has always been sly, always been conniving. But this is a side of him he's never seen. This is dangerous. This is a threat. Manipulation at its finest. Perhaps even the strongest men can be corrupted by power. Don't Dream. Do they know, Techno? Dream asks, even louder this time. Do they know you imprisoned their own first mate? Do they know you were going to escort Philza to his death? He tries not to look. He really does. But out of the corner of his eye he sees the reaction of his crew. Tommy's face falls, devastated, then twists into something ugly and angry. Ronbu makes a soft sound of disappointment, scarcely audible over the sounds of battle. Nikki gasps, and tears of anger and hurt make her eyes glassy. Eret, pressed carefully behind Tubbo and Jack, though they too hold a sword, just looks sad, but not surprised. He had meant to tell them. He and Phil had agreed that they couldn't hide it, that sooner or later the truth would have to come out. But in the midst of the chaos, of sirens and battles and stowaways and Wilbur, there hadn't been any time to think of it. And now they know. He looks away, ashamed, his cheeks flushing in shame and anger alike, his grip on his sword tightening until his knuckles ache. In front of him, Dream smiles as though he's already won. Do you really think they'd want you as their captain now? Now that they know the truth? And his grin softens into something more hopeful, that damn hand extending as if he truly expects Technoblade to take it. Come back to the Navy, Techno. There's nothing for you here. The crew knows his secret. Phil saw his hesitation. He knows the confrontation he'll face, the trial that awaits him in winning back their trust. Some might never forgive him again after learning the truth, that he was once one of the very men they fight now, vying for their deaths. So maybe Dream isn't wrong, not entirely. But Technoblade already let down one crew. He'll be damned if he does it again. Sorry, Dream. His voice is firm, final. His opponent's face falls, darkening into something bitter and hurt and furious. I think I'll have to pass. You're going to regret this, Techno. You'll come crawling back. Dream insists, as their blades fall together once more. This time, Technoblade fights with a new vengeance. He fights for his crew. He fights for his friends. They don't talk much after that, both of them too focused on the fight. The air is filled with the sound of the clashing of swords, the choked grunts and snarls as pirate faces sailor, neither group willing to back down for a moment. For either, victory means life, and loss, death. Technoblade has no heart for killing. He never has. But it's every man for himself, and one death to prevent another is a fair enough exchange in his eyes if it means one less friend to lose. And then... what the hell? Dream's question is less venomous and more confused, his blade stilling mid-swipe. His gaze is fixed upward, his brows furrowed and his mouth agape, utterly bewildered. Technoblade follows his gaze upward and feels his heart drop. Oh, you bastard. Phil is standing on the yard. Phil is standing on the yard. He's poised with one arm outstretched, brandishing his cutlass at Sapnap, who clings to the rigging as though he's chased the pirate all the way up. Despite the way the wind whips at his hair, Phil is grinning as he stands, balanced, confident and cat-like, out on the narrow surface. He crooks a finger at Sapnap with the slightest little tilt of his head, his grin widening. Come on then, mate. Let's see what you've got. A bait. Or are you scared? Sapnap takes it. He teeters out into the yard, his own sword outstretched, and moves with surprising agility to confront Phil where he stands. They clash once more, and every movement has Technoblade's chest lurching, his heart in his throat. One wrong move, one wrong step, and either one could face a devastating fall. But Phil is smiling, chest puffed and eyes bright, and he looks more at home up there than safely down on the deck. A bird indeed. You idiot, he hisses under his breath, just as Dream shakes himself from his shock to continue their own battle. If he doesn't kill you, I'll kill you myself. Dream laughs at that. I can see why you like him, he quips, twisting his blade with an expert flick that catches the corner of Technoblade's ear, nearly knocking his hat off. He's fun. And he laughs, shaking his head. But I'm afraid my first mate's more capable than he thinks. Above, there's a pained grunt as Sapnap lands a hit, shallow but long, across Phil's bicep. Phil can handle himself. Technoblade answers, just as Phil's next blow nearly sends Sapnap's blade flying from his grip. His chest warms with pride and smug satisfaction. Oh, I have no doubt. I've heard the rumors. Captain Blade, befriending the Angel of Death. I have to say, I'm a little impressed. Technoblade bares his teeth. But there's something else, Dream adds, almost as an afterthought. His grin turns sharp, like a cat toying with a mouse. What's that? Technoblade snaps impatiently, not in the mood for any more of his games. You're forgetting about my sharpshooter, Techno. No. There is something else Technoblade forgot. Dream hates to lose. He turns with wings on his feet, and his heart stops. He can see George taking aim from where he crouches in hiding. Sees the way the barrel levels at Phil's heart. Technoblade is moving before he can even think, pushing through the crowd, parrying swipes and shouldering past enemy after enemy, taking a line of men down in his wake. His heart pounds, his blood roaring in his ears, his muscles burning with the strain of his efforts and a dozen nicks and scrapes. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. He has to get there. He has to make it in time. He needs to go faster, to move, to protect his friend. The gun lowers. Bang. Phil teeters backward, his lips half parted in an O of surprise, his arms splaying to either side. He takes one precarious step backward, then another, and then his heel is slipping over the edge, and he's falling backward with nothing to catch him but the wind. Phil! Technoblade sees Sapnap make a grab for him, as if in some last-second surge of regret. But it's too late. His fingers grab at nothing but open air, and Phil falls.